welcome to My Career in Data, a podcast where we discuss with industry leaders and experts how they have built their careers. I am your host, Shannon Kemp, and today we're talking to Dia Adams from TCG Incorporated.
With a robust catalog of courses offered on demand and industry-leading live online sessions throughout the year, the DATAVERSITY Training Center is your launchpad for career success. Browse the complete catalog at training.dataversity.net and use code DVTalks for 20% off your purchase.
Hello and welcome. My name is Shannon Kemp and I'm the Chief Digital Officer at DATAVERSITY. And this is My Career in Data, a DATAVERSITY Talks podcast dedicated to learning from those who have careers in data management, to understand how they got there, and to talk with people who help make those careers a little bit easier. To keep up to date in the latest in data management education, go to dataversity.net/subscribe. Today, we are joined by Dia Adams, an enterprise data AI strategist from TCG Incorporated, currently contracted to the U.S. White House. And normally, this is where a podcast host would read a short bio of the guest, but in this podcast, your bio is what we're here to talk about. Dia, hello and welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you on and to hear your story. I was looking at your LinkedIn profile and oh my gosh, you do so much. So you list yourself as a White House data strategist, best-selling author of Winning with AI, a blueprint for corporate leaders, as well as a highly experienced data and AI consultant and speaker. So much that you do.
Yes, I don't get much sleep, unfortunately.
I bet. Okay, so let's start what you're currently doing. So you're an enterprise data and AI strategist from TCG Incorporated, currently contracted to the U.S. White House. So tell me, what type of business is TCG Incorporated?
So TCG is a DC-based government contracting firm. We work with federal clients on a variety of technology projects, and I lead their data program there.
Nice. So tell me, as an AI enterprise data and AI strategist, what is it you do? What is it you're leading?
So I'm leading initiatives at federal agencies to help them implement what's known as the Federal Data Strategy. That's an effort that started off about 6 years ago. A law was passed called the Evidence Act, which required federal agencies to create the role of chief data officer so that they can leverage data more effectively across those agencies. And I consult with them when it comes to implementing some of the goals of that overarching strategy and what that specifically looks like for their agency.
That sounds like a lot. How do you work with data in your job? And what is it a lot? I'm assuming it's a lot of data that you're dealing with.
Yes. We deal with a lot of data. It depends on the agency that I'm at. Different agencies have different levels of data management maturity. For example, at the Securities and Exchange Commission, I've been with them since the beginning of the upstart of their data office. In about 5 years now. I consider them a very mature office at this point. A part of their task is to make data available for public consumption. So I interact with data in that way. You can go to sec.gov and take a look at some of the interactive data visualizations that the teams that I work with have put together so that data can be easily disseminated to the public. When it comes to the White House work, that work is more around organizing their data, helping them to document their data better, and working with them to build out an enterprise data strategy, which aligns their business strategy with data so that data can be leveraged to support the various business goals that they have.
Very interesting. That's very interesting. So, let's back it up and figure out how you got into this role, and let's back it up quite a bit. So tell me, when you were very young, say 6 years old, what was the dream? What did you want to do when you wanted to grow up?
When I was 6 years old, I wanted to be a Supreme Court justice. So I'm not that, as we can see, but I am working in government. So I had a little bit of a hint.
Oh,
My dad wanted me to work in a career that was math centric. So uh, I am doing that. So I guess I had a little bit of a head start in terms of figuring out what I was going to do. I'm not exactly that, but there are pieces of it in my work.
oh, I love that. Yeah, most of us aren't, right? That with the I wanted to be Wonder Woman at 6. So, Supreme Court justice is pretty
Yeah,
impressive.
you know, it actually came from that. I
Oh,
should say I first wanted to be Barbie for Halloween,
mm,
and my parents insisted that I had to be something that that I could be when I grew up.
oh,
And so I said,
uh-huh.
"Oh, okay, fine, I'll be a Supreme Court justice." So it actually, yeah, my kindergarten brain wanted to be a Barbie, and parents said, "No, you gotta pick something else." And that's how
Oh,
the Supreme Court justice dream started.
fascinating. I love that. Okay, so then as you started growing up and in high school, what do you start getting interested in?
Then things shifted a bit for me. So my favorite movie is Pretty Woman, with Richard Gere and Julia Roberts. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
Yeah.
But I loved Richard Gere's character, and there
Mm,
was this part in the movie where Julia Roberts asks him what he does for a living, and he says that he buys and sells companies. And I thought, that sounds really cool. Yeah, that's what I want to do. I'm sold on that. I'm going to buy and sell companies. So that was my dream in high school, and I majored in finance in college. Though eventually, when I was majoring in finance, I fell in love with data, and I changed my major to economics, and I never, I never veered away from that. I like fell in love with data from a research perspective, and I've just been doing data work ever since.
wow. So tell me then, what was the first job out of college?
So my first job out of college, I worked for a place in DC called the Population Reference Bureau. They're a nonprofit. They work with various federal agencies and foundations um, to disseminate data for public consumption. I worked on some cool projects there. I worked with the Census Bureau on my first project. I would calculate statistics that would be used for news articles in the Washington Post or on CNN. At that time, America was approaching the 300 million mark in terms of citizens. And so there was a lot of news attention given to that. And so I was calculating statistics related to that. And that was my beginnings of getting paid for data work.
Wow, that's a lot of data too.
Yeah, yeah. I Looking back, I realized that I sort of started at the epicenter of data. Census Bureau is sort of creme de la creme in the government when it comes to that.
Yeah.
That was around 20 years ago now. We take data across all agencies a lot more seriously than we did back then. Back then, it was sort of the Census Bureau and a few other agencies were kind of out on their own promoting the
Sure.
data message. But now everyone is on board, so that's a good thing.
Yeah. So where did you go from there, from the Census Bureau?
From the Census Bureau, I went to work at a place called the National Association for State Boards of Education. They're another nonprofit. They're an association that represents education policymakers at the state level. And there I was doing data work to help inform them on various policy measures. So I'd give them briefings on different topics that they were considering policy change on and helping them to make database decisions.
Nice. And then you transitioned again.
Yeah, I transitioned again to a place that no longer exists. It's called the Academy for Educational Development. They're another DC nonprofit, and at the time, they were receiving government funds um, to conduct studies. And I was working on a project there again in education, like I was doing at the place before that. They were getting funds from the Department of Education to produce various research studies to measure the effectiveness of different education interventions.
Mm, nice. Um, so so as your transition, so then you said that this nonprofit is no longer there. Is that why you transitioned from that job?
Yes, that's why I transitioned from that job. And from there, I went to work um, for the Maryland State Department of Education. Um, I was a, a data analyst there. There was a law that was passed that required state agencies to provide data to the public on how schools were doing in their state. And so my role was to calculate the statistics that we had uh, to provide the public with and make sure that that was available and easy to digest on our public website. And that's where I shifted more from my prior work had been a lot of research work and moving more into the importance of data management.
Mm,
Um, yeah, and that was sort of a little bit of a turning point in my career
mhm.
where I'm moving out of the research space and into more to the data management space.
And how was that different from you? And how did you make that transition? You just learn on the job? Resources did you have?
Um, I learned on the job. Um, the job itself made data management become something that was apparent to me and very important. I was in my 20s at the time that I was on that job. I was working with a lot of people who had worked in the department for many decades, and I was one of the younger people. And I remember realizing, hey, we got to get some of our systems up to snuff. Because again, I started with the Census Bureau, which takes data very seriously. They've been thinking about data for a long time. And I was noticing a gap between how the Census Bureau treated data and how um, the state entity treated data. And we were handling sensitive data, social security numbers, address, date of birth, information on children and parents. And I was explaining to them, hey, the way we're handling data security, it's making me uncomfortable. Um, but no one really listened to me because I was young. And eventually I left that job for those reasons. And then a couple of weeks later, I saw them on the front page of the news for one of the state's largest data leaks. And I
Oh,
thought,
good.
oh my gosh, this could have been prevented if they just listened to some of my concerns. And it was in that moment that I really realized that like data management is very important, that it's not just about crunching the numbers. When we're working with people's data, we're not just managing the data, we're managing their trust. Um, and that just sparked interest in me in like trust management. How do I navigate that? How do I think about data
Mm,
um, more broadly, not just communicating information, but how do I store and communicate information in a way that's responsible. Um,
mm.
so yeah, that was a turning point for me.
Such an important way and such, I love that way that you look at it. It's very important.
Visit dataversity.net and expand your knowledge with thousands of articles and blogs written by industry experts, plus free live and on-demand webinars covering the complete data management spectrum. While you're there, subscribe to the weekly newsletter so you'll never miss a beat.
So now what? So now you're working through your career, you're beginning your career in data management.
Yeah, beginning in my career in data management. After that, I started working many years as an independent consultant, and I worked with various companies and also on some publicly funded projects. And there, I got to see data from a new vantage point. Um, because I was seeing it from the business side of how do you
Hmm.
leverage data to drive profit. So that was really exciting work for me, and I still keep that in my tool belt as something that's interesting to me and that um, I continue to work on to this day.
Ah, very nice. So what made you decide to go out on your own?
Well, I had left the state job abruptly due to my concerns and I didn't
Yeah.
have a backup plan. I said, "Oh my gosh, it was not too long before Thanksgiving and I live out of state from my family and I'm like, I can't go back home and tell them I don't have a job. So I've got to figure this out. And so I said, well, I don't have a job. Let me try to create a job. And so I was fortunate. I was able to pick up different clients and it kind of snowballed from there and took off. And I did that for several years. It was very fulfilling. I enjoyed that work. I like the diversity of um, being able to have different types of clients across different industries, across different funding types. It really helped me to sharpen my skills because I could see how people were using data in different contexts. Whereas my prior roles were a little more narrow, they tended to be strictly in the public sector.
Yeah. Interesting. So, and now you're working for TCG.
But yeah, now I'm working for TCG. Um, they randomly reached out to me some years ago. I wasn't job hunting, and they said, "We have this job for you, and we think you're the perfect person for it." And I said, okay, well, tell me about it. And they told me about it, and I said, wow, that is the complete embodiment of who I am. I'm not looking for a job, but I don't think I can pass this up. This is me. This is me. So I said, yeah, I'll come in and interview. And I did great, and we both liked each other. And so I started there, and that's how my work with the Securities and Exchange Commission began. And as I was mentioning earlier, my academic background was in economics, so I was really excited to kind of get back to home, so to speak. I have
Yeah.
really ventured off, but this was a chance for me to get back to all the data that first turned me into a data person, and so that was really exciting. And um, I got to do a lot of things that I enjoy doing, all in one job. I really like to mentor and lead teams. Um, I was feeling at that time like I gathered a lot of hands-on knowledge, and it's good. It's always good to give back and teach others. And so that role, it gave me an opportunity to work with a really awesome team, and share some of the things that I learned. And also, I learned a lot from the SEC itself. Again, similar to the Census Bureau, the SEC is a very data centric organization. So they really, their folks are creme de la creme when it comes to quantitative work. So I got an opportunity to work with a lot of amazing economists and data scientists and learn a lot from them. So it's been a tremendous experience. I'm really grateful that I got that random call 5 years ago.
You're still excited about it. It's great. Oh, that's amazing. And that's what I love
Yeah.
about data, right? Like, is you can find there's so many different jobs in every kind of company that you can find something that you really are passionate about. That's,
Hmm.
that's amazing. And I don't want to bypass too that in current times you've written a book. So, Winning with AI, a blueprint for corporate leaders. Tell me about your book and why you decided to write it.
Um, Yeah, so I decided to write this book because in addition to working at TCG, I also do consulting work. And I was noticing that as AI is beginning to become the hot topic, a lot of companies are struggling with how to implement AI. And I have some insights into that from working with various clients. And I wanted to share some of the things that I was learning in the hopes that I could alleviate um, some of the frustrations that I saw leaders having. I think sometimes when you're dealing with data and tech work, um, it can be hard to communicate with other stakeholders that are involved in the work. It's important to be able to speak their language. I like to think of myself as sort of bilingual. I speak data, but I also like to speak business so that people will listen to me and support and fund the data projects that I'm trying to convince them um, to stand behind.
Mhm.
So yeah, I wrote the book because I wanted to close that gap. I wanted to talk about data and AI in a way that's accessible to someone who's not an expert in those areas. Because I think that AI, to me, is a bit of a revolution that we're going through right now. And there'll be a lot of consequences as a result of that revolution, um, good and bad. And I want to do my part to help to prepare people for those changes, who may not necessarily be tech people, but they'll be responsible for some of the outcomes that come as a result of this technological change.
So, Dia, tell me then, what's been your biggest lesson so far in your career?
That's a good question. My biggest lesson, um, speak up.
Mm,
I think speak up is my biggest lesson. That goes back to the lesson that I learned working in the State Department of Education, where they didn't have the best data security protocols, and I realized that by not speaking up enough, there were a lot of negative consequences that perhaps could have been averted if I just spoke up. Um, I've always growing up, I was a very quiet and shy child and just a little nerd who likes to read and learn. Um, but in my career, I've realized that it's not good enough to just soak up knowledge. You know, you have to share what you have in order to help others. And so, yeah, speaking up, that I'd say that's my biggest lesson. We don't want to hoard the data. We want to use the data to make good decisions. Um, and that requires releasing the data, in its various ways. You do that, and a part of it is at times releasing the data by just speaking up on patterns that you're seeing.
very good lesson. And one that is so hard to learn for so many, including myself. Um, now, as you gone through your career too, I mean, having worked with data for so long, I mean, really since college, how do you define data? What's your definition?
That's a good question. I'd say I think of data as r- raw facts, um, facts that if you transform it can turn into information that's valuable once it has contextual meaning.
Very nice. So, and do you see the importance of data management and the number of jobs working with data increasing or decreasing over the next 10 years and why?
I think it's going to take off. I've been working in data, like I said, for around 20 years now. And for me, this is the most exciting time of my career. Um, I feel like the data profession has come so far since I first started. We're taken seriously now. leaders understand the business value of what we do. And I think that that business value in the age of AI is only going to continue to go up. Um, I think that, yeah, given the new push for AI, data management will become even more important and data will become even more of a valuable asset. And businesses and government agencies are going to need experts to explain to them how to manage that asset and how to fully leverage that asset to get the outcomes that they want. So I'm very optimistic about the future of the profession and the number of jobs that are going to be available. It's all really, really exciting.
Oh, I'm right there with you. And you're so right in getting that businesses are going to have to understand data as an asset. So many just want to plug in AI and just go make it work, but there's a lot of management to do.
Yes, yes, yes. That is the big task for us as data professionals right now. A lot of it is going to be around education, because now we have this unprecedented demand that is new to us, and we have an audience that doesn't think about data in the way that we think about data. And now the big ask for us is for us to educate those stakeholders, so that we can deliver those exciting and shiny things that they want to see, in ways that are responsible and profitable and make sense. Um, and that's a really big ask. It's a really big ask, but from what I can see, our community is working on that. We're sharing lessons learned. We're going to what I like to call data therapy sessions where we all get together and we vent and we say our frustrations of how no one will listen to us. And someone in the room says, "Hey, I got someone to listen to me, and this is how I did it." And we learn from that, and we apply those lessons to new contexts, and we become more mature as a data community, and I'm loving that. I'm loving that process that's taking place right now.
So grateful for the data community because it's just one of the best, right? Because everybody's willing to help out each other and network and support, and like you say, share those war stories and just lean on each other.
Hmm. Yeah, it's truly it's an amazing community that is filled with lots of really kind and helpful people. It's very collaborative.
Mhm.
If you want to know something, you just ask, and there are people there that are willing to help you and walk through it, and that are equally as passionate about the work as you are. And I feel really fortunate to be a part of that.
Yeah, I agree. So, what advice then would you give to people who are looking to get into a career in data management in any aspect?
Hmm, advice. I'd say a few things. One, continuous learning, absolutely required for this work. Um, the work evolves. Right now, it's evolving rapidly, and you want to remain relevant and you want to remain open-minded. Um, Two, I would say it's important to have a handle on, the various data topics that are of interest to you, but it's also equally as important to have a handle on the context in which you are doing that data work, whatever that may be. If it's, for instance, the federal work that I do, it's important for me to understand the data management principles, but it's also important for me to understand the missions of the agencies that I'm working at, so that those two things can be married to one another to have the largest impact through the work. And then lastly, I would say um, to get a mentor.
Mm.
Um, as we were just talking about, the data community is very friendly, very open. Um, you can reach out to someone online who you don't know and just say, I've got this question. I'm familiar with this work that you do. I thought you might be interested in this. And I do this all the time. And I would say my response rate is probably 90%. And I'm like,
Mhm.
this is so awesome. And then that creates a responsibility in me to not forget that, hey, when I'm have a question, someone almost always answers. So now I have the responsibility that when people come and knock on my door, that I answer their questions. So to participate in the circle of knowledge
Mm.
um, would also be my advice, and to not give up, because this is just, I don't know, I couldn't ask for a better moment in my career and in the work that I'm doing. And I know that I try to stay tapped in and go to in-person meetings with various people in the data community. And I know that it's not just me, there are others like you and myself that are equally excited right now. So that would be my advice, to also stay tapped in. Don't do the work in isolation.
Oh, such good advice. Oh, Dia, it's been such a pleasure. And in fact, that's how we met. You connected with me on LinkedIn. Just reached out and said hi,
Mhm.
and it's awesome. And
Yeah,
now
and you
here we are.
responded. Yeah, now here we are. Yeah, see, we're a testament to the friendliness of the data community.
Well, likewise. Oh, Dia, it's been so great. So tell me, I'd be remiss though if I didn't ask how people would connect with you and find TCG and
Yes. So you can find TCG at tcg.com, and you can learn more there about the work that we do and the clients we work with. You can learn more about me on LinkedIn, Dia Adams. And again, my door is genuinely always open. So if anyone wants to reach out, have any questions, I'm happy to answer those. You can find my book, Winning with AI, a Blueprint for Corporate Leaders, on Amazon. And yeah, I'm happy to talk with anyone at any time.
perfect. Oh, I love that so much. And we'll put those links on the podcast page for everybody. It's been such a pleasure, Dia.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate having the opportunity to be on and talk about my data journey.
It's a great one. Well, Dia, thank you so much. And to all of our listeners out there, if you'd like to keep up to date on the latest podcasts and the latest in data management education, you may go to dataversity.net/subscribe. Until next time, stay curious, everyone. Thank you for listening to DATAVERSITY Talks, a podcast brought to you by DATAVERSITY. Subscribe to our newsletter for podcast updates and information about our free educational webinars at dataversity.net/subscribe.